Are you in your B state? And what does that even mean? Well, today I'm going to walk you through an exercise between think, do, and be states. This is a mental state that you can be self-aware of, and an exercise to help you catch yourself if you're in the think state, do state, and be state. I will break down each one of them and help you understand the power of being aware of where you're currently sitting at. My name is Devin Johnson. I'm a serial entrepreneur that's built, scaled, and failed in multiple businesses. And today I'm bringing you one of the most powerful exercises that's changed my life, my team's life, and I strongly encourage you to take notes while we're going through this today. I'm going to jump right into it. I'm going to break down think, do, be from a basic concept. The think state. This is the most linear thinking, and most businesses are here. This is where you use data and a roadmap to grow businesses and careers. So think about when before the GPS was invented, you had a paper map. I know I can't pull out a paper map and get to where I'm supposed to go. If you gave me a paper map that said drive to Nashville, Tennessee, I would be screwed, because I grew up in a world where we had at least MapQuest and now the GPS. But I want to make this comparison to where you understand how companies are thinking. So in the companies that run on the linear think state, they use data and a physical roadmap to progress and to make changes. And individuals that are in their think state use data and a physical roadmap as well in their personal day-to-day thinking. A lot of woulda, coulda, shoulda statements come out of the think state, and they constantly are, I think we should have, we could do. They are in this state because they are working off of old data, even if it's last week, and they're working off of a roadmap that they wrote down a list of how things should be going, right? So they're constantly in the react phase mentally, because they are constantly thinking and they're moving linear throughout the business. Now, the next stage here is the do state. This is quantum thing. So you are data, but you have a map quest of, we're going to make this turn and then this turn and then this turn. You're not reacting as much in the do state. You're using the end state in mind and data to make decisions behind it. You are doing the motion to get through the next turn in the right that's coming up in the left, right? So I like to give this comparison as the MapQuest way of growing businesses. A lot of businesses are in their quantum state. They sit down, they plan to where they want to be a year in advance, a quarter in advance, 6 months in advance. And this is a great place to be. And we constantly should be in our do state. As I get to our be state and explain how these businesses grow, I do want you to be aware this is a healthy place to be. And we do have to go back and forth. Now, the be state, this is AQ squared, accelerate, adapt, and be aware. So this is where you want to be using data, and you are in I like to think of this as like the plane or the Back to the Future car. You use data to reference, and it's a place of the past, which is a residency, but you only visit it when it's relevant. This state, you're using data to tell yourself to make that left or make that right. In the think state, you're using data to think about and to react, right? So you're consistently going to the past. The do state, you're using the past to make the next turn. The be state, you're using data to make it as a reference point to help you understand, do we fly to this airport, or think about the Back to the Future movie. He knew that he needed to go 88 miles per hour to ultimately take flight. And once he's in the air, he is then making the right turns to go to the right destinations and go back to the future. This is where we want to be. We want to be in the be state, where we're accelerating, adapting, and we're self-aware. Where we get caught up, businesses really struggle, is they consistently go backwards. So these businesses, the way they plan and the way they discuss is they set big goals, and no matter what, they achieve them. Because it doesn't matter if the map said to turn left, but you ultimately had to turn right, left, right, left, right, left to get there. These companies, back in the think state, are working off of old data and consistently visiting the past. So they're consistently swinging back to old information. These companies are using information to move forward, and B state companies are ultimately using it to make decisions to continue to achieve the goal no matter what. This is where you hear a lot of the "we are going to, no matter what, against all odds." Those type of statements are happening in these conversations because they accelerate, adapt, and they're aware. They're okay with change. They're okay with risk. They're okay with failures, and they encourage failure. Being in your B state, you want to fail fast. And where you got to identify where you are at. Are you consistently in your think state, using old data, old ways of documenting and moving forward? Or are you in your do state, where you're using data to give you a plan to go left, right, so on and so forth? Or are you in your B state? No matter what, I'm going to achieve this. And you're willing to take whatever risk is in front of you to do so. Now, taking this down to an individual, so now you understand this from a company perspective or from a corporation perspective. Being in the B state is ultimately where you want to spend your time. If you call yourself a visionary, a creator, a CEO, a leader, we need to be in our B state, because you have the mentality of no matter what, we're going to achieve this, and we're willing to do whatever it takes. In your do state, you get caught up in the weeds, because the data and the map sometimes don't align. And so you're doing the work, but you're not getting the result. In the think state, you're constantly living in the past. So old data is all that you can reference. You can't see ahead. And so where organizations struggle, like I'll use myself, for example, I live here in the B state, no matter what we are going to achieve. I love having conversations with doers, because they are working through the work, and sometimes I got to pull them out of the weeds, so I'm consistently in the B state. But think about the think state. These people ultimately find work to drain them. They're wore out. They never recharge actually at work, because they're consistently going back and fighting a repetitive cycle of how do I get out of this? They run in circles. And so someone that's in their B state struggles to talk to people, and it wears them out in the think state. So think about your organization and where you're at right now. If you feel like you're here, these people will wear you out. Think about this from a tactical standpoint. Is there someone that you sit down with at work and you're just dreading the conversation because you know they're going to bring up this past point, this issue, and they're not talking about solutions? There's a good chance that you're in between your do and be state, but when you get into an individual that's in their think state, it drains you. And so I like this little hill analogy, right? So we're in business, we're sitting on top of the hill. Let's say you're in your B state. This is where you find work to be fun. It is not a place that you're recharging, right? It doesn't drain you. You find it to be recharging. You love what you do. You're inspired. And when you get people that are constantly in the think state, you have to go down into where they're at. So you feel like you're going backward, and you have to go back up the hill, right? And so it wears you out being in the think state. And to encourage, individuals to move forward into the think, do, be, you have to give them, this individual has to give very clear data and very clear plans for the future, so that they at minimum can live in the do state. But if you have an individual that struggles to get out of past references and never comes up with solutions, take inventory of that, take an audit of that. It is okay that you sometimes time in the think state. I have to spend time in the think state. We have to resolve problems. We have to, think through it. But ultimately I get right back to do and right back to be. It is okay to be in the think state if you know for how long and why. It's not okay to just wake up and be here every single day. In the do state, you gotta fluctuate between doing and being. You can't get caught up in the weeds to where you can't see the future. You gotta have your head above the trees so that you stay encouraged and you stay refreshed inside of the doing of the business. Inside of the B state, you have to have the no matter what attitude, and you have to be willing to accelerate, adapt, and be aware. And in this diagram here, you get understand, where do you find yourself getting recharged? If you go home and you sprawl out on the couch and you're just like, oh, today kicked my butt, and you're just drained, you're most likely in between think or do. Work should be a place where you recharge and you feel energized. That is the number one signal you should be watching for. And you need to take an audit. Are you referencing data that keeps you in the past? Are you referencing data trying to make the right next turn? Or you can't see the future? Or you need to understand where you're at so that you can consistently be between think and do. Because individuals and a lot of entrepreneurs, leaders, and executives, they do work off of no matter what attitudes, or the B state. And so they get wore down having thinkers consistently be around them. And so I strongly want to encourage you to find your B state and to be between be and do, and avoid the think state. Woulda, coulda, shoulda out of your vocabulary. Plan, accelerate, adapt, and actually grow. I strongly encourage again to take inventory of you, your team, and run this exercise. I want to leave you with one thought. If you're not in your B state as the leader of the organization, how do you expect others to outwork you and outthink you if you're consistently bringing them down by being in do and think? So take inventory, make an audit, and run this exercise with your team. Make them self-aware and understand that work should be a place where you're recharging. Please like, subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video.